The first time I met Elara, my alien masseuse, was on a warm, breezy evening on Tarsus 4, a spaceport renowned for its cross-cultural exchanges and exotic services. Tarsus 4 was the kind of place where anyone, from weary space truckers to high-ranking diplomats, could find a little comfort far from home. The sign above her shop flickered in neon blues and purples, reading Elara's Embrace, therapeutic touch from beyond the stars. Curiosity, more than anything, drew me in. Inside, the ambience was a stark contrast to the busy spaceport outside. The air was perfumed with a sweet, floral scent that immediately eased the tension in my shoulders. Soft, ambient music filled the space, a composition of unfamiliar but soothing sounds. The decor blended natural elements from different worlds, glowing stones from Remia's caves, water features from Aquila's cloud cities, and plants that shimmered with bioluminescence. Elara emerged from the back of the shop, her presence as calming as the environment she cultivated. She was tall, her skin a shimmering silver that seemed to flow like liquid with each movement. Her eyes, large and luminous, carried the tranquil depths of her homeworld's serene oceans. She greeted me with a voice melodic and soft, yet carrying an undercurrent of something wild, which hinted at the untamed aspects of her species during certain biological cycles. "Welcome," she said, her tones harmonizing subtly with the background music. "I'm Elara. I sense great tension and fatigue in you. Come, let us ease the burdens of your travels." Her approach was different from any therapist I had encountered. She led me to a room that resembled a small, serene grove. The ceiling simulated a night sky from a planet far gentler than any I had known. As I lay down on the plush massage table, she explained her method. "In my culture, touch is healing," Elara began, her hands hovering just above my back, emanating a warmth that I felt without direct contact. "We can feel the pain and stress in others and draw it out. However, I must caution you. My species experiences what we call the hot period. It is a time of intense emotional and physical expression. I am currently nearing that phase. I can control it, but it does make my abilities more intense." I nodded, not fully understanding what that meant but desperate for any relief from the chronic stiffness and pain that my body harbored after long hauls through the cosmos. As her hands finally touched my back, a wave of heat washed over me. The sensation was not unpleasant. Rather, it felt as though every muscle in my body sighed in relief. Elara's technique was a dance of pressure and release, her fingers working deeply yet gently, finding knots of tension I hadn't even realized were there. The session passed in a blur of comfort and fleeting thoughts. At times, her touch seemed to delve deeper than just the physical, brushing against raw edges of loneliness and homesickness that I kept buried under layers of daily routine. Her presence felt like a balm not just to my body but to my spirit. As the massage concluded, Elara's hands rested lightly on my shoulders, her heat lingering like a promise. "How do you feel?" she inquired, her voice a soothing balm in itself. "Better than I have in cycles," I admitted, sitting up slowly. The usual ache that accompanied my movements was diminished, as though she had untangled a complex web of pain that had constricted my body. Elara smiled, a glow seeming to emanate from her that wasn't there before. "I am glad to hear that. Remember, I am here when you need relief. But also, be mindful of my upcoming hot period. It might affect my control." I promised to consider that, intrigued and slightly wary of what her full capabilities might entail during such a time. Walking out into the neon glow of the spaceport's evening cycle, I felt lighter, almost floating. Whatever lay ahead, I knew I'd return to Elara's shop, drawn by the profound relief she offered and curious about the deeper powers she hinted at during her hot period. Little did I know, my next visit would be far more intense than anything I could have imagined. Several weeks had passed since my initial visit to Elara's shop, and the demands of space freight had once again knotted my muscles with relentless tension. Drawn by the memory of relief, I found myself standing before her door, the neon sign flickering a welcome. Inside, the ambience had shifted subtly. The air was charged, the floral scent more intense, as if anticipating the heightened state of its owner. Elara greeted me with her usual serene smile, but her eyes flickered with an inner fire, a visible marker of her nearing hot period. It is good to see you return. I must warn you, I am much closer to the peak of my cycle. My control is less assured. Acknowledging her warning with a nod, I felt a thrill of both caution and curiosity. The potential intensity of her touch this time held an allure that was hard to resist. As we entered the massage room, the simulated night sky above seemed to pulse with a deeper shade of twilight, mirroring the shift in her physiological state. She began the session without further preamble, her hands finding their way to the stiffened knots along my spine with practiced ease. The warmth from her touch was more pronounced now, almost hot, searing away the layers of fatigue with each pass over my sore muscles. The sensations bordered on overwhelming, yet beneath the heat, there was an undercurrent of exquisite relief. As Alara's hands moved with a rhythmic precision, her breathing grew heavier and her touch deepened. The room seemed to resonate with her increasing energy, the ambient sounds growing louder, blending with the pulse of her exertion. There was a palpable tension, as if she was battling to keep her innate power in check, her fingers trembling slightly as they pressed into my flesh. Midway through the session, she paused, her hands hovering above my back, trembling. The air vibrated with the force of her restraint. "I need to stop for a moment," she said, her voice strained. Taking a deep breath, she stepped back, closing her eyes and focusing. The room cooled slightly as she regained her composure. After a moment, she resumed, her touch more controlled but still charged with a raw power. The massage now felt like a dance on the edge of a blade, thrilling yet dangerous. Her ability to draw out the pain was magnified, leaving behind a trail of soothing coolness that contrasted starkly with the initial heat. The session ended with Alara visibly fatigued, her silver skin glowing with a light that seemed to pulse in time with her slowed breathing. "You must tell me if it was too much," she said, concern threading through her fatigue. "It was intense, but the relief is profound," I assured her, my voice low and relaxed. I could feel every part of my body with a new clarity, as if her touch had not only eased the physical tensions but also cleared away mental fog. As I left her shop, the night of Tarsus 4 welcomed me with a cooler air, the stars above twinkling sharply. The experience had edged on the limits of what I thought bearable, but it had also opened a door to a new understanding of Alara's gifts and the raw power of her species during this unique phase. It was a power that fascinated me, drawing me back not just for the relief of physical pain but for the exhilarating brush with an almost untamable force. Days turned into weeks since my intense session with Alara, and the memory lingered in my body like an echo of the heat and power she had wielded. A call from the spaceport dispatch routed me back to Tarsus 4 sooner than expected. Upon landing, my first thought was of visiting Alara, drawn by a mix of need and a deeper, magnetic pull to her unique energy. The spaceport buzzed with the usual mix of commerce and transit, but my path was resolute towards Alara's shop. The neon sign now burned steady, its colors a beacon in the dusky light of the port. Pushing the door open, I was met not by the familiar soft melodies and floral scent, but by a palpable silence and a sharper, tangier aroma that set my senses on edge. Alara stood in the center of her shop, more radiant than ever, the silver of her skin almost incandescent. Her eyes locked onto mine, intense and unblinking. "You have returned at a critical time," she said, her voice edged with a vibrant energy. "My hot period has begun. I am not sure I should proceed with a session under these conditions." The warning hung between us, thick as the charged air. Yet my intrigue pushed me forward. "I'm willing, if you think you can maintain enough control to proceed safely." Her nod was slow, almost reluctant. "We must proceed with caution," she agreed, leading me to the therapy room which now thrummed with a subdued energy, the simulated sky flickering with stormy hues. As I lay on the table, Alara's hands hovered above me, not touching yet, as if testing the space between her control and the pull of her instincts. The first contact was a shock of heat, more intense than before, a direct conduit of her inner turmoil and power. She started with broad, sweeping strokes, each touch moderated but barely containing the surge beneath. The air around us seemed to crackle, her every movement synchronized with a deeper, rhythmic pulse that felt like the heartbeat of the universe itself. Each muscle in my body responded, contracting and relaxing profoundly under her ministrations. It was a dance of fire and ice, her control flickering like a flame in a strong wind. Mid-session, Ilara paused, her breaths coming in sharp gasps. Sweat beaded her brow, her features contorted in concentration. "I need to focus," she whispered, her voice ragged with the effort of her restraint. She stepped away, closing her eyes, her whole body a portrait of tension and resolve. Minutes stretched, filled with the heavy sound of our breathing and the distant hum of spaceport life beyond the walls. When she returned to the table, her touch was different, more assured yet tinged with a wildness that was new. It was as if she had embraced the edge of her control, flirting with the limits of her own nature. By the end of the session, I felt not just relaxed but transformed. Ilara's power, ridden at the brink of her control, had not only released physical tension but had tapped into something deeper, a primal force that was terrifying and exhilarating. She stood back, her eyes wide, watching me with an intensity that bordered on awe. "You are very resilient," she said, a note of respect threading through her tone. Not many would have dared to undergo such a session. Leaving her shop that evening, I felt a profound shift within myself. The encounter had not just been about seeking relief from physical ailments but had ventured into the realms of personal limits and the understanding of another being's raw and unbridled nature. It was clear that each visit would now venture into deeper, uncharted territories of experience and connection. The effects of the last session lingered with me as I navigated through my routes across the star systems. The depth of the encounter had not only altered my physical sensations but had left a psychological imprint that was both invigorating and complex. My thoughts frequently drifted back to Ilara, to the force of her presence and the profound boundary we had explored between control and surrender. Upon my return to Tarsus 4, I was drawn inexorably towards her shop, driven by a mix of need and a newfound respect for the power she wielded. The neon sign seemed to pulse as if in sync with my heightened anticipation. Pushing through the door, I was greeted by a wave of warmth and a heavier, earthy aroma that hinted at her still unfolding hot period. Ilara was waiting, her luminous eyes reflecting a calm that belied the storm I had witnessed last time. "You've come back," she stated, her voice steady. "Are you prepared to go further?" "My control is better honed, but the intensity remains." I nodded, trusting in her ability to navigate the precarious balance of her capabilities. We moved to the therapy room, which now glowed with a subdued light, the simulated sky calm, perhaps a reflection of her current state of mastery over her powers. This time, she began without hesitation, her hands immediately seeking out areas of tension with precision. The heat from her touch was controlled, deliberate, yet every contact sent ripples through my body, echoes of the wild energy she had harnessed before. Her movements were fluid, almost choreographic in their grace and intent, weaving through the layers of muscle and tissue with an artist's touch. The session evolved into a symphony of sensations, Ilara's abilities creating not just relief but an exploration of energy that transcended mere physical healing. She spoke little, focusing deeply, yet each movement communicated volumes about her emotional and physical state. The intensity built steadily, a controlled ascent into the eye of her storm. Halfway through she paused, her gaze intense. "I can go deeper, tap into more of the storm within. But it will be more intense than anything before. Are you willing?" The question hung heavy in the air, charged with potential. After a moment's contemplation, I consented, curious and driven by the desire to understand the full scope of her power and its effects on me. Ilara's nod was one of approval and caution. She resumed, her hands now channeling not just the physical power of her being but tapping into the emotional and psychic energy that her species was known for during these periods. The room seemed to darken around us, focusing all light and energy on the connection between her hands and my skin. What followed was an extraordinary experience. Her touch seemed to not only manipulate muscles but also resonate with my very essence. Waves of heat mixed with an almost electric charge pulsed from her palms, drawing out not just physical pain but emotional residues, memories and stress I had long buried. As the session drew to a close, Ilara's hands slowed, then stopped, resting lightly on my shoulders with a touch that felt like a farewell to the intense journey we had shared. She stepped back, her breathing deep and even, her eyes reflecting a storm past, leaving behind a trail of calm. "I believe you are the first to have experienced such a session," she commented quietly, a trace of wonder in her voice. "How do you feel?" Revitalized and strangely connected to the universe in a way I had never felt before, I sat up, feeling lighter, as if a great burden had been lifted, not just from my body but from my soul. "I feel renewed," I managed, my voice filled with awe. As I left her shop that evening, the world outside seemed sharper, the starlight more brilliant, each sensation heightened. Ilara's gift had not only touched my physical form but had shifted something fundamental within, unlocking a new level of perception and understanding. Each visit now promised not just healing but a profound journey into the depths of what it means to truly connect and transform. The days following my transformative session with Ilara saw me grappling with a heightened awareness of my surroundings. Each system I visited, every starship I docked with, seemed imbued with a clearer purpose, their mechanical and human components interacting with a harmony I had scarcely noticed before. This new perception was not just an enhancement of the sensory experience but a profound understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, a gift from Ilara's deep and powerful treatments. Upon my return to Tarsus IV, the anticipation of meeting Ilara again was tinged with a sense of purpose. Her treatments had transcended mere physical therapy and ventured into the realm of the spiritual, reshaping not only my physical well-being but also my existential comprehension. As I entered her shop, the atmosphere welcomed me like an old friend. Ilara was there, her silver skin glowing subtly, her expression serene yet expectant. "You are different," she observed, her voice resonant with a recognition of the change within me. "It seems you have absorbed the energy from our last session quite profoundly." I acknowledged this, feeling a connection to her that went beyond the typical client-therapist relationship. It was as if we were co-explorers on a path neither of us fully understood yet. Without further discussion, we proceeded to the therapy room. The simulated environment today mirrored a galaxy, stars swirling in slow, hypnotic patterns across the ceiling, reflecting perhaps the cosmic journey we were undertaking. Ilara began the session with her now familiar touch, but there was a new layer to her approach. Each movement of her hands seemed to not only explore but also to activate latent energies within me, energies that responded eagerly to her touch. Her method was deliberate, as if she was composing a symphony of healing energies, each note resonating perfectly with my body and soul. The session deepened, and so did the connection. At one point, Ilara's hands paused above a particularly tense spot on my shoulder, and her eyes closed in concentration. A warmth spread from the point of contact, not just a physical warmth but a profound energy that seemed to reach deep into my core. "I am now channeling energy directly into your energy field," she explained, her voice a whisper that seemed to echo in the dim light of the room. "This may help unlock deeper insights and connections." The sensation was unlike anything I had ever felt. It was as if I was being filled with light, an energy that suffused every cell and fiber of my being, elevating me to a state of heightened consciousness. Images and sensations flooded my mind. Distant galaxies, the flow of time, the very essence of being, all interconnected in a vast, intricate dance. As Ilara slowly withdrew her hands, the room seemed to gradually come back into focus, the galaxy above slowing its whirl. The feeling of being connected to something much larger than myself lingered, a profound understanding that everything is part of a greater whole. Ilara watched me carefully, gauging my reaction. "How do you feel now?" she asked, her tone full of curiosity. "Connected," I replied, the word feeling inadequate to describe the breadth of my experience. "It's as if I've touched the universe itself." She nodded, a smile playing on her lips, satisfied with the result of our session. "With each treatment, you open more, becoming attuned to the energies that flow through all things. It is rare to find someone so receptive." As I left the shop that night, the streets of Tarsus IV didn't just feel like pathways between destinations but like arteries within a living entity. I understood now that my visits to Ilara were not just appointments but pivotal moments of connection and revelation, each one a step closer to understanding the complex fabric of the cosmos. In the weeks that followed, my travels seemed less about the cargo I carried and more about the experiences I gathered, Each star system a node in the vast network of cosmic consciousness I was now tapping into, thanks to Ilara's transformative sessions. My senses had been sharpened, allowing me to perceive not just the physical, but also the subtle energy fields of the beings and places I encountered. My return to Tarsus 4 was inevitable. The pull to see Ilara again was not just a desire but a necessity, a call to delve deeper into the mysteries we had begun to explore together. Her shop, a beacon on the bustling streets of the spaceport, welcomed me with its familiar pulsing glow. This time, Ilara greeted me not just as a client but as a fellow traveler on this extraordinary path. "The progress you've made is remarkable," she commented, her eyes reflecting the stars spinning slowly in the simulated sky of her therapy room. "Today, we can attempt to fully synchronize our energies, a convergence that might allow you to perceive and manipulate these forces on your own." The therapy room felt more alive than ever, the swirling stars above us seeming to anticipate the session's significance. We began without preamble, her hands finding their places with an assuredness that spoke of her deep understanding of my energy structure. The initial touch was like a spark, a connection that instantly linked us, her fingertips not just touching but merging with the energy fields surrounding my body. Ilara's technique had evolved from mere physical interaction to a dance of energies, her motions guiding and enhancing the energies within me, fostering a harmony that resonated through my very essence. The boundaries between where my aura ended and hers began blurred, merging into a shared field that pulsed with a powerful yet controlled energy. As the session intensified, the room around us seemed to fade away, leaving only the shared space of our connected consciousness. Ilara's voice, when she spoke, seemed to come from a place both external and within me. "Feel the flow of energy, not just within you, but as it exists everywhere. This is the fabric of the universe, a tapestry in which you are now a conscious thread." The sensation was overwhelming yet exhilarating. I could feel the energy currents she described, could see with my mind's eye the intricate web of life forces flowing around and through us. It was a revelation, a peek into the fundamental workings of the universe. Gradually, Ilara began to withdraw her hands, the connection fading but leaving a permanent imprint on my consciousness. "You have reached a point where you can continue to explore this energy on your own," she said softly, her eyes gentle yet intense. "You are now attuned to the universal energies. With practice, you can learn to influence and utilize these forces in your life and travels." As the session ended, and I stepped out into the neon-lit night of Tarsus 4, the world was no longer the same. It was richer, filled with visible currents of energy that I could now perceive and appreciate. The knowledge and skills Ilara had imparted were more than just gifts. They were tools and insights that transformed my existence into an integral part of the universal dance. Walking among the crowds, I felt a deep sense of connection to everything around me, a part of a greater whole, yet distinct and individual. The journey Ilara and I had embarked on had not just changed me, it had redefined my place in the cosmos, opening up endless possibilities for exploration, understanding, and influence. Each step was now a step into a broader reality, each breath a communion with the universe. My travels would continue, but now they were imbued with a purpose and perception that transcended the physical dimensions of space and time.